So, why should any Nigerian be bothered that the Nigerian government decided to seek power alternative for the presidential villa? Recall that it's in the news that the Nigerian government approved the sum of 10 billion naira for the installation of mini solar grid at the presidential villa, seeking power alternative. Now, it needs to bother you because this is the federal government openly detaching herself from the consequences of further national grid collapse. So that means Nigerians can suffer the collapse of national grid as long as possible because the federal government have already secured an alternative power for the presidential villa. So rather than upgrade the power grid, rather than fix the problem, rather than open up other avenues to bring in other power alternatives that can benefit all Nigerians, they decided to open the doors to a mini solar grid only for the presidential villa. That should bother you because maybe the next time the national grid will collapse, it will take a long time to recover. That should bother you. Or perhaps they are trying to send a message saying all Nigerians should go and look for other power sources just so that the next time the power grid collapses, they will not come and cry in public. Now that the Nigerian government decided to seek power alternative for the presidential villa, how many federal hospitals actually have access to power alternative? How many? Generators, right? No clean energy anywhere close to federal hospitals. How many health centers have power alternatives? How many businesses in Nigeria that can employ at least 1,000 people actually have power alternatives other than running diesel and petrol that has become too expensive? How many of them? Why can't the federal government, since they decided that the national grid is no longer good enough, why can't the federal government officially bring in power alternatives that would benefit all Nigerians and not just for the presidential villa? Because tell me, what economic activities happens at the presidential villa? These are very big questions. These are very big questions. Perhaps the government is not ready to put her priorities straight because one of the biggest problems we have with our economy in this country, with production in this country, is that we don't have constant power supply. And then when you seek alternatives by running diesel, by running your generator and buying diesel, it now becomes too expensive. So businesses cannot employ as many people as possible because their running expenses are way too much. And so rather than the government investing money genuinely, not the one we see on paper or the ones that they come to lie to us, because the power minister has made it a thing to come out on TV all the time to tell us how 150 million Nigerians now have access to electricity, telling us stories while sweating, and you can tell that his facts are not connected. And so it has become obvious that the federal government herself does not even have faith in her own power ministry. That's exactly what it is. How many Nigerians can afford to install solar equipment in their houses as alternative power? Nigerians were busy enjoying running their generators and buying petrol, and all of a sudden the price of petrol went up. People were using these avenues to run their businesses and still keep faith. But now the price of petrol has gone up. The price of diesel is nowhere. You just have to manage yourself and put yourself in a box for you to survive. And yet, things like this can come out in public. There's no problem in the government seeking power alternative for the presidential villa. But the question is, what happened to leading by example? What happened to leading by example? Because it looks like the federal government have actually gotten alternatives to everything, including the health sector, the power sector now, the educational sector. And so the people can deal with what is available to them while the government tries to seek alternatives for herself. It's not fair. And so for the people who are trying to decide, I don't understand where your decisions are going to come from because this is what you have, this is what you can see, and this is what you ought to believe. Okay, this is the country where we are. And if the government fails to come out to put clarity to this whole 10 billion naira allocated for semi-solar grid for the presidential villa, if they fail to come and address it and tell us that it's a lie, it simply means that everything the government campaigned to do for Nigerians is just a hoax. That's what it means. It just simply means that Nigeria is actually a workstation for certain people and not a country for certain people. So it is a country for certain people, but a workstation for the others. So they just work here to make money while some people live here. That's basically what it's going to now look like. And it's not fair. Because some people still believe in this country. Some people still love their country. Despite everything that is happening. Despite everything.